A bit of a Nessie Business, Part 1. Molt had been in Crick's office for less than a minute and already wished he'd stayed in bed. Crick sat behind his desk, tail twitching, tongue flicking irritably across one eye, in the way skinks did when they were trying not to scream. A stack of reports lay in front of him like a pile of accusations. "Let me see if I have this correct," Crick said, voice dangerously level. "You returned from a Class 7 DUAT breach with half the office in uproar, 3 divisions demanding statements, and you flatly refuse, to explain how you dispelled the demons." "I did the job," Molt said. "That's all you need." Crick tapped a claw on the desk. "You used something. A device, bronze, jackal-headed, ringed with hieroglyphs, humming like a beehive. The DPWDWTST quartermaster wants to know what it was." Molt shrugged. "Probably a trick of the light." Crick stared. "A trick of the— Molt! It left scorch marks!" "Would you believe I found it?" "No!" Crick stood and paced behind his desk, claws clicking, eyes twitching in a way that suggested he was one irritation away from biting someone, preferably Molt. Ginny drifted through a filing cabinet, dead pigeon in hand, and said, "Got any gin?" Crick flinched. "And then there's that!" Molt didn't turn around. "She's harmless. She's a 6-year-old Victorian revenant." "Still harmless." Crick slapped a folder onto the desk. "Agent Torkel saw you entering the Homo Felinus base in Catford." Molt winced. "Doesn't Torkel wear glasses?" "He was in the cafe opposite, eating salad. He saw you go in." "Could have been one of my siblings," Molt said. "We hatch in clutches. Hard to tell us apart if you're a tortoise." "I've seen your record, Molt. You're an only child." Crick leaned forward. "They had a ghost child with them, Molt." Molt cleared his throat. "Lot of that going around." Ginny drifted closer and said, "I can't drink that. I'm only 6. Crick made a strangled noise. Before he could continue the interrogation, the door creaked open. A cat strolled in. A sleek, black, utterly self-possessed creature with the bored expression of someone who outranked everyone in the room by divine right. He leapt onto the desk and dropped a sealed envelope. He knocked a pen off the desk and settled down to sleep in Crick's chair without acknowledging a single soul. Crick stared at the envelope as though it might explode. He opened it with trembling claws. Inside was a single line. "Agent Molt is operating under a need-to-know directive. Do not interfere." No signature, no seal, no name. Perfect deniability. Crick looked up, horrified. "Who?" "I have no idea," Molt lied quickly. He could say, he just wouldn't, because if he said it aloud, he might anger a goddess. Bast owed him a favour. Somehow, that had turned into him being under her orders. He'd become useful, and she would exploit that in the insouciant, careless way only a cat goddess could. He muttered, "Syphilis preserve me," under his breath, not out of belief, just cultural reflex. Crick swallowed. "Very well. You're cleared, temporarily." He shoved a folder across the desk. "Take this. Loch Ness. The invisibility field on the Ness creatures is failing. Sightings are up. Tourists everywhere. DPWDWTST agents are already on site, handing out tea and rewriting memories. This is reptile folk business. Fix it." Molt took the folder. "Fine." "And Molt?" "Yes?" "Do not make things worse." Molt didn't promise anything. Reptile folk had train ticket magic that could make the journey instantaneous. Molt didn't use it. He wanted time to think, time to read, time to avoid thinking about Bast's deniable claim on him. He settled into a seat, opened the folder, and began reading the briefing. The Ness creatures were ancient reptile kin, long-lived, shy, and naturally liminal. Centuries ago, reptile folk shamans had woven a biological magical adaptation into them, a perception-bending invisibility field that kept them safe from hunters. The field needed periodic renewal, done through enchanted food pellets containing a key ingredient, Kelpie gleam, a shimmering secretion produced only when Kelpies shifted form. The runes carved into the lock bed stabilised the field. The office was supposed to maintain the pact with the Kelpies. They hadn't. The Kelpies would be furious, and Molt, lucky unlucky Molt, was being sent to fix it. Ginny pressed her face to the window, delighted by sheep. "Sheep," she whispered. "Fluffy." "Got any gin?" Molt grunted and kept reading. Chaos greeted them. Tourists with binoculars, drone hobbyists, monster spotters, DPWDWTST agents handing out tea and saying things like, "No sir, that was a log, drink this." Molt muttered, "Brilliant," and pulled his coat tighter. Ginny drifted toward a patch of mist near a clump of heather. She stopped, tilted her head. "Sheep ball." Molt frowned. "Ginny, don't wander." Then he saw it, a ghost haggis, round, sheep-headed, faintly tartan, a folkloric joke that had somehow acquired a spirit, legless and floating. It bleated softly. Ginny crouched and patted it on the head. Her hand didn't pass through, it connected. The haggis leaned into her touch. Ginny beamed. "Soft." Molt stared. That was new. He muttered, "Syphilis preserve me." The ghost haggis trotted off into the mist, leaving a faint smell of phantom peppercorns. Ginny floated back, humming tunelessly, clinging on to her dead pigeon companion, stroking its head as if it might have been jealous of the ghost haggis. Molt sighed. "Right," he said, "let's get this over with." And together they walked toward the lock. A bit of a Nessie Business, Part 2. The boathouse was half-rotted, draughty, and smelled of algae, diesel, and something that might once have been a sandwich. Molt stepped inside, set his bag on a crate, and immediately drew a sigil on the doorframe with one claw. The glyph shimmered faintly. Anyone approaching would suddenly decide they had something better to do. A small, practical reptile folk walled the "not today" charm. Ginny hovered near the doorway, humming tunelessly. Her dead pigeon, who Molt had decided to call Mr. Feathers, perched on a beam overhead, flapping more than usual, and attempting to chat with a gull that had wandered in through a hole in the roof. The gull stared at him, baffled, then pecked at the air experimentally. Molt eyed the pigeon. Even as a ghost, Mr. Feathers had always been, well, dead, still, motionless, a memory with wings. But now, he flapped, he hopped, he cooed at things. Ginny's grounding was strengthening him, turning him now and again into a living ghost. A corpse ghost one moment, a fluttering half-alive echo the next. "Brilliant," Molt muttered. "The pigeon's developing a social life." He ignored the gull's offended squawk and began laying out his gear. First, the anti-cold talisman, a carved bone disc etched with reptile folk sigils. When he activated it, it warmed just enough to keep him alive. It also smelled like burnt cinnamon. He hated burnt cinnamon. Next, the water-breathing spell. He dipped a finger into the copper-tasted ink and painted the glyph onto the outer scales of his throat. When he pressed 2 fingers to it, the glyph shimmered and sank inward, settling behind his windpipe like a swallowed spark. 8 hours of underwater breathing, if he was lucky. Then, the nictitating lens eye drops. He braced himself, tilted his head back and squeezed. Gah! Syphilis's tail! They stung like betrayal. Everything went green for a moment. He checked the translation charm strapped to his wrist, still functional, still crackling faintly, still overdue for replacement, and moved on. Finally, the orb of illumination, a pale green sphere, rose from his palm and hovered obediently at shoulder height. He dimmed it to a soft glow, bright enough to see underwater, not bright enough to attract every sonar-happy tourist within a mile. Molt reached into his coat and pulled out a folded square of enchanted canvas, the sending sack, standard field equipment. He rolled it out flat on the boathouse floor. It twitched, then pop! A full sack of nest creature feed materialised inside it. He removed it. Another appeared. He removed that one. Another. 5 sacks in all. The feed smelled like fish food and wet chalk. Nest creatures adored it. He'd mixed the kelpie gleam into it later, once he had it. Ginny drifted closer, peering into the sending sack. "Food?" "Not for you." "Gin?" "No." She nodded solemnly, as if it imparted deep knowledge. Mr. Feathers suddenly became dead again and fell into Ginny's arms. She stroked his ghost feathers, and he flickered faintly, as if deciding whether to be alive again. Molt stepped into the lock. The cold hit him like a physical blow. The anti-cold talisman warmed, but only enough to keep him functional. He muttered something unprintable and waded deeper. Behind him, Ginny hovered at the water's edge, humming. She saw the ripples foam on the shore. "Fluffy water," she said. Molt looked out across the lock. A tourist boat was trawling with a fish finder. A hobbyist on the far bank was lowering a sonar rig. A research vessel further out was doing acoustic mapping. "Brilliant," he muttered. "Exactly what I needed." He dimmed the orb to a faint glow, straightened his spine, and tried to look as log-like as possible. "If anyone asks," he told the universe, "I'm driftwood." Then he slipped beneath the surface. The world went green and murky. The breathing spell kicked in, making his throat tingle. He exhaled a stream of bubbles and began swimming towards where he knew the runestones should be. Reptile folk had a sense for old magic, a kind of instinctive tug, like remembering the way home. When he got close, he traced a sigil onto his palm with his finger. The lines glowed faintly, forming a rune detection charm. The water around him brightened with shimmering lines, ancient glyphs glowing through silt and algae. "There you are," he muttered. The runestones were in terrible condition, cracked, overgrown, some glyphs eroded entirely. The magic flickered like a dying battery. Of course they're in terrible condition, why wouldn't they be? He knelt on the lock bed and brushed algae away from one of the stones. The glyph beneath pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat running out of strength. He placed his glowing palm over the rune and channeled magic into it. The glyph brightened, stabilised, and began to hum faintly. He moved to the next stone, and the next, and the next. By the time he finished, he was freezing, exhausted and furious. They should have been maintained better, he fumed. There, he thought. That will last a good few decades now. A shadow passed overhead. Molt froze. A huge shape glided through the murk. Long neck, smooth scales, eyes like green lanterns. A nest creature. Reptile folk adjacent, from back when terrible lizards really did rule the world. Not birds, not proto-birds, not avian-derived archosaurs, as the scientists like to insist with their charts and their smug little laser pointers. Molt had once sat through a lecture where a human paleontologist declared with great confidence that all the big prehistoric reptiles were basically chickens. He'd never forgiven them. Molt knew the research, he'd read the papers, he understood the phylogenetics perfectly well. He simply chose not to believe it. Some things were a matter of dignity. The nest creature's invisibility field flickered around it like heat haze. It circled him once, slow and deliberate, then retreated into the dark. A silent plea. "Fix this." "I'm trying," Molt thought. "Believe me." He pulled out the Kelpie beacon, a carved whistle that made no sound in air, but sent a magical ripple underwater. He blew it. Nothing. He blew it again. Still nothing. He tried the old ritual call, the one his grandmother had taught him. A stream of bubbles escaped his mouth. Silence. He swore underwater, which produced more bubbles. Then movement. Shapes in the dark, not approaching, just watching, judging. Kelpies. Shape-shifting water spirits. Horse-headed one moment, eel-bodied the next, human-eyed the moment after that. Ancient, proud, bound by old agreements. Agreements the reptile folk had neglected. Kelpies used to eat humans, still did very occasionally if someone was foolish enough to step into the water at the wrong moment. Molt wondered, not for the first time, whether they'd ever dined on reptile folk. He decided he didn't want to know. He felt their anger like a pressure in the water. He sighed. The shape shifted, closed in, silent, ancient, furious. Molt exhaled a long stream of bubbles. "Right," he said, "let's get this over with." And the Kelpies surrounded him. A Bit of a Nessie Business, Part 3. The Kelpies closed in like a tightening noose. Shapes slid through the murk, long, eel-slick bodies, horse skulls with screaming manes of weed, human-shaped silhouettes with eyes like drowned lanterns. One of them darted past Molt so close its flank brushed his arm, a deliberate intimidation pass. "I'm a fish out of water," he thought grimly, "or rather a lizard in water. Easy pickings for angry Kelpies." He activated the reptile folk translation charm strapped to his wrist. It crackled, fizzed, and produced a sound like a radio tuned to a thunderstorm. Pressure waves hit him, not words, but intent. Ancient, cold, disappointed. The charm strained, then rendered a voice. "You return!" Molt swallowed. "Yes, I'm here to..." Another Kelpie surged forward, jaw snapping inches from his face. "You forgot!" The charm struggled to keep up. The water vibrated with their anger. "You stopped coming! The stones decayed! The field fails! Human swarm! We were left alone! Molt raised both hands placatingly. I know, the office! A third Kelpie spiralled around him, its form shifting from horse to eel to something with too many eyes. The offerings stopped! Molt blinked. Offerings? The charm translated a low, furious rumble. The meals! The shaped ones! The ones that are not humans but taste like humans! Oh, those! The ready meals, I can't believe it's not Homo sapien. Magically grown protein shaped like a person for cultural reasons. Yes, well, those were discontinued after a budget review. A Kelpie hissed, and the water around him churned. We will eat a few real humans if this is not fixed. Molt winced. Let's not do that. The Kelpie circled him again, closer this time, the pressure wave sharpened. You broke the pact! No, Molt said. The office broke the pact. I'm here to fix it. The charm buzzed, translating the Kelpie's cold skepticism. You vanished! Molt grimaced. Yes, because the lock maintenance liaison position was abolished. The water around him pulsed with confusion. Abolished? Molt sighed. Folded into another department, and then that department was folded into another department, and then someone lost the paperwork. The Kelpie stared, or the underwater equivalent of staring. You misplaced the pact? Not me personally, Molt muttered, but yes, the office did. A ripple of ancient disdain rolled through the water. You are unreliable. Fair, Molt said, but I'm here now, and I'm offering a solution. The Kelpie stilled, watching him with two bright eyes. Molt took a breath, or whatever counted as a breath underwater with the spell active. We reinstate the lock maintenance role, but this time we appoint a permanent ambassador, someone who can contact the office whenever needed, someone you trust. The Kelpies exchanged ripples of thought. Not reptile folk, one said. You do not come. You forget. You reshuffle. Fine, Molt said. Then someone from the lock. The water stilled. A Kelpie drifted closer, its face shifted into something almost human. Us? Yes, one of you, trained in reptile folk communication magic, able to initiate contact, able to speak for the lock. The Kelpies murmured among themselves, their forms flickering. Another voice. And the nest creatures? Molt shrugged. They're reptile folk adjacent, ancient, calm. If needed, I can give one a temporary intelligence boost charm. They could serve as a secondary liaison. The Kelpies found this amusing, a ripple of dark laughter. Very well, the charm translated. One Kelpie will be an ambassador. One nest creature may assist. Molt exhaled a long stream of bubbles. Good, then let's seal the pact. A Kelpie swam forward, its body shimmering. It shifted through three forms in rapid succession, each one glowing brighter. From the transformation, a liquid light began to drip, luminous, pearlescent, humming with ancient magic. Kelpie gleam. Molt held out a vial. The substance flowed into it like molten moonlight. The pact was renewed. Molt broke the surface with a gasp, the cold air hitting him hard on the waterhead. He staggered toward the shore. Ginny was waiting. She stood in the shallows, shoes and socks off, paddling happily. The ripples foamed around her ankles. Mr. Feathers fluttered around her head, half alive again, cooing at nothing in particular. Ginny waved. Mr. Lizard! Molt trudged up the bank, dripping and miserable. He mixed the Kelpie gleam into the sacks of feed, loaded them into a rowboat, and pushed off. The orb hovered above him, casting pale green light across the water. Shapes gathered beneath the boat, huge, gentle shadows. He poured the mixture into the lock. The water shimmered, the invisibility field stabilised. The runes hummed faintly in the deep. It was done. On the way back, Molt passed an unattended fisherman's bait bucket. He paused, looked around, pinched a fat, wriggling worm between two claws. Field rations, he muttered, and ate it. A sleek black cat sat on a rock near the boathouse. He dropped a folded note at Molt's feet, then walked away without looking at him. Molt unfolded it. Good little lizard, I may call upon you again soon. The note dissolved into golden smoke. Molt's expression darkened. Bast was exerting her control over him. Ginny watched him, head tilted. She slipped her small cold hand into his. There, Mr. Lizard. Molt reprimanded himself internally. Holding hands with a ghost mammal? A human child? Ridiculous. But he didn't let go. They walked back towards the boathouse together, the lock calm behind them, the pact renewed. As long as the office implemented his recommendations, that is. They'd better, if not they could send the damn turtle to sort it out next time, for syphilis' sake.